protocol, so you're muted. We will have time at the end of our agenda to ask questions. And I want to welcome, and you'll see by her stellar background, give you a couple guesses as to where Melissa is. Melissa Naughton is the Assistant Director of Business Development and Properties for the Orlando Melbourne International Airport in Melbourne, Florida. And that is the background, I think, Melissa, that you have. Melissa's also a graduate of Leadership Brevard, class of 2018, and has been a frequent host and co-host when Leadership Brevard has been able to be on site at the airport. And we are delighted to welcome you in the airport presentation to those participants today. And so if you will give me kind of a, Leadership Brevard welcome for Melissa Naughton. I know there's a clap icon somewhere too. Also, here we go. We can clap. Sean, totally. So Melissa, without further ado, if I might turn this over to you, and we will work with you in terms of your slides, and you're going to manage your slides and we'll work on the polls. Yes, exactly. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'm an introvert. This is very out of my wheelhouse for me, but I love Leadership Brevard and Lead Brevard. And so I'm stepping out of my comfort zone to do this so I can bring the airport to you since you did not get the chance to come out and see everything that we have going. I have a couple of different backgrounds that I'm going to rotate through during the presentation. So hopefully you get a sort of virtual tour. I would also like to invite the class out for a tour. If maybe we could organize something like that after everything gets kind of back to more normal, regular business, because it really is something to see in person, and a presentation and my words aren't, so it just does not do it justice. So without further ado, I have a little presentation for you. Kristen, if you want to launch the first poll question, that would be awesome.
All right, I am going to absolutely do that. This is the first, we want to make this interactive. So this is one of 5 polls, and we would invite you all to vote. The Orlando Melbourne International Airport, also known as MLB, is how many acres?
Yes, how big is the airport?
How big is the airport?
The airport or everything it owns?
Everything it owns. All of its property.
All right, has everybody voted? There are only 15, okay. I can now see 19, I got 26 people on the call. Only 19 of you have voted. So there's still a small window to influence the answer.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead. I'll answer it.
Go for it.
Okay, the airport is 2,500 acres that comprises all of our property. And so I'm going to be talking today about some of those tenants who reside on our property. My focus is going to be on the 20 years that I've worked at the airport. To start off, though, I wanted to give you, oh, wow, yes, okay, so that was the right, most people got that answer correct. That's awesome.
All right, I didn't know that I could share them.
We're all learning, right?
Right.
So I wanted to give you some background about the airport before I got into business development and properties, which is my position. The Airport Authority is comprised of a 7-member board. 3 of our members sit on the Melbourne City Council because we are actually part of the city. While we can do all of our own leases and manage our own properties without the city being involved, we do have some financial ties to the city. So in addition to the 3 city council members, we have a chamber representative who is our chairman, Jack Riles, and then we have 2 at-large members. And then we have 1 tenant representative, and that's Scott Muchin, who works for L3 Harris. And then the airport executive team is made up of myself and Director of Operations, Director of Business Development, who is my direct supervisor. We have a senior advisor and a Director of Capital Improvements, a Director of Finance and Administration, and Director of Public Safety, who Sean has to answer to. And the team is comprised of some new members to the airport staff, probably within the last couple of years. And then there's a mixture of like me and Cliff, who have over 20 years at the airport. Cliff's got a few years on me. So meet me. I began my career in 1999 at the airport. I actually started off as a temporary employee, a receptionist, and worked my way up to my position now. I'm a graduate of the University of Florida. I have a degree in public relations, and I'm part of the team that successfully negotiated bringing Embraer to Melbourne and the expansion of the Northern Grumman campus. I also am a huge Disney fan, and I am in love with my Peloton bike and the Peloton community. So meet MLB. We have a daytime population of over 20,000 people. This includes our passengers, tenant employees, airport employees, rental residents, and more. We have a $2.8 billion annual economic impact on the community. And if you could launch the second poll question. Thank you. We were named Florida's 2019 Commercial Service Airport of the Year by FDOT. And the background that you see behind me is our scenic approach, that we are #1 in the United States and #4 in the world. And we are America's fastest growing aviation and aerospace manufacturing center. Now, me telling you about my airport is me telling you about my airport. Every airport's different. So some of the things that I may say or share with you is going to be different at another airport. Okay, so we do not receive any local taxes. The airport budget is made up of diverse revenue sources. Our largest revenue source is our ground leases, which make up 85% of our income. No, sorry, I'm having a little, there we go. Okay, so now a journey through the history at MLB. First, I guess we can launch the third poll question. This probably makes the most sense to do it now. So back before I started, back in 1994, the areas that are highlighted in yellow are the existing airport facilities and land leases. You can see to the north, that's the old Kmart shopping plaza. I'm really dating myself by calling it that. That is where the Planet Fitness is now. It's a corner of Sarno and Apollo. We have since sold that property and it's no longer part of the airport. Here, this used to be a Lowe's and now it's United States Postal Service, a facility, a package facility for them. And then here is the current Melbourne Police Department. Over here, you had Shelter, which also runs an FBO and has T hangars for lease and some other hangars. They had begun their construction back then. And coming over to the south side of the airport had already had its aerospace center building, which we referred to as the air cargo building back then. And then this is just an office building. This was a banking facility. It's now the Alstom facility. And then over here on Babcock was what is now Kaiser, but this actually had been an Albertson's grocery store. And then we also had a Scotty's home improvement store. Here, of course, is the airport terminal. Over here was a land yacht protocol, people with some mobile homes and trailers. It was an Airstream park. And then here is Tropical Haven, which is our 55 and over community. And then moving along the way here, this is Collins Aerospace, formerly Rockwell Collins. These were a couple of Northrop Grumman facilities. And then you can see Northrop Grumman also started its campus. So that was all existing before I came to the airport. So new developments that started during my time. Okay, just so the answer is E, all the above facilities exist on airport property. In between 1994 and 2004, there were some new developments over on the north side of the airport, the north side development. This was a maintenance facility. It was Heck Air. It's now actually a corporate hangar now from a local company. And then Shelter increased its leasehold and built the hangar. It now leases the Southeast Aerospace. We also expanded the General Aviation Drive so we could access more property around the airport. Then coming to the south side, over here, let's see, hold on, I gotta look at my notes. So this is the land side, and okay, my air side, land side. Okay, so over here is GE Transportation. That was my first real deal that I worked on when I got to the airport. This is JDS, this was JDS Uniphase. Now Thales is in this building. It has switched hands a couple of times. DRS was in there for a while. Collins Aerospace expanded its campus. We also built a new ARF facility, and ARF, for those who don't know, is Aircraft Rescue Firefighting or something. Sean knows, he can put it in the chat what it actually is, but we built a whole new facility. It's staffed by the City of Melbourne Fire Department. We have an agreement with the city for their personnel to be there. And then things start getting a little more exciting. Oh, also we built these apron facilities over on the north side, and that would become very important later, because that's one of the reasons why Embraer picked Melbourne to locate at Melbourne, because we had already existing infrastructure. So that helped put us ahead of a lot of other places. So this was Project Jaguar, and this was for their Phenom facilities. They built a assembly hangar, a delivery center, and they have a paint booth. And then they had optioned, this is where the facilities here and here, and then they'd optioned this other property. Over here, over along General Aviation Drive is the landings. They are condo T hangars. People can buy T hangars to house their aircraft. This was actually something that was very new back then, that concept, and it's worked out really well. Over here is a hangar we had built for a tenant, but it didn't work out. We refer to it as the Aloha hangar. However, Embraer now leases that as well. On the north side, land side, this is the Store Smart storage facility. So that was something new. And then this is Bear Air, back on the air side, which is now Apex Executive Jet Center. They're an FBO, and an FBO is where private aircraft can go and get gas, maintenance. They can store their hangars, their aircraft in hangars there. They also have like little meeting rooms for people like pilots to meet, and they sometimes will hold like special events for the general aviation community. Coming around here, this is the large hangar that you see if you travel along Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. You probably see a bunch of Air Canada aircraft on the apron right now. They have some parking there during this time, and STS is actually performing some maintenance on those aircraft. But originally it was for a tenant named Midair, but like I said, it's now being leased by STS Mod Center. And then landside, the Circles of Care facility, Kaiser University. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. And then over here we have Kindred Hospital. It's a long-term hospital facility for rehab. And then this was at the time for it was a building for RICO, but it's now being leased by MDS Systems, and they do medical data processing. Coming down the road, this was another Northrop, this was actually, it was called TRDA. It was a research development facility. It is now Florida Tech now leases it. This is also FIT Aviation in their Bueller Center, where they do all their aircraft training. And this was Project Magellan with Northrop Grumman, in which Northrop Grumman increased its campus. So it optioned this property. It had built 2 new facilities during this time period. So between 2015 and 2018, if we go back up to the north side, Embraer, this was Project Summit, in which they increased their facilities to bring on building the legacy aircraft. So they added on to their assembly center. They built a second paint booth, and they built another delivery center. They also have a very large parking lot over here. Coming over to the STS property, they built what was called oh no, this is actually Apex, sorry. They built a second hangar because they needed to expand, because the current hangar they had was filled with people who were leasing space to store their aircraft. So they built a second larger hangar. Coming over here to STS, they built what is called a plane port, which means that it was just like a big garage that they could work on an aircraft. It was only closed on 2 sides. So they were expanding. They needed more space for the work they were doing. Kaiser at the university added a second building. And then coming down here, Northrop Grumman took down more of its option property. Currently, Northrop Grumman has over 2 million square feet of office and lab space on the airport. They had started off with 40,000 square feet when they first started at the airport, and now they're up to over 2 million. And then down here, let me see, I skipped over some of my notes. Let's see, south side, oh, here. This is the SATCOM Direct Flight Ops hangar. I don't know if you've heard of SATCOM Direct, but they do a lot of avionics that are used in aircraft. So they actually help the general aviation community and also some of our corporate tenants. And then 2019 and beyond. So this is where we are now. This parcel here You might have heard a little announcement on Friday about AERION Supersonic. They're going to be building a supersonic business jet, and they just picked us for their worldwide headquarters. So we will be expanding a taxiway that's right here so that they can access this large parcel, which is one of our last large parcels that we do have at the airport. Embraer still has some of its option property. The storage center over here is expanding for RV and boat storage. And then coming back around, STS is building a third hangar since it has now totally enclosed its plane port, and we consider that a hangar. And they're going to be building additional apron space. In this building, I told you, is now Alstom. They had an option on these parcels. This area is slated to become the future Melbourne Police Department. We're working through some negotiations and moving that forward, but we're very excited about that. And then over here, we are going to be building a fly-in hotel. We have a developer who's we're working on the deal now, and we hope to have that completed by September 2022. It's going to be really cool. We hope to have a rooftop bar so you can come on up and watch all the activity taking place on the airport. We also have a couple of different option properties. Here is for Fallon Aviation. They own a pilot store. It's a place where general aviation pilots can go and buy different gear and things that they may need for their aircraft. And also it'll be sharing facilities with Melbourne Flight School where you can get some flight training. Over here is an option parcel for a company called Ares Defense Systems for them to build a corporate hangar. And speaking of Ares Defense Systems, they have also leased this building we lovingly refer to as 1100 Woody Burke, and they're doing a whole retrofit of this office space. Northrop Grumman still holds this option property, and we're actually working on an amendment for them to take down some of this in the future. Satcom also has a 3-acre option, and they've been discussing expanding their facilities. So that's where we are today. And I'd like to play you a little video that will show you some of the airport since you're not getting to see it today. I don't think the sound is working, and I'm not sure how to get it to.
I guess, Alex, if you want me to sing, I guess I'll sing.
Sorry, I don't know. I can't. And my computer's starting to get all crazy. It worked when I tried it before. Sorry. That's our new air traffic control tower. All right. one was very tiny. Yep, you can see it right there. It was shorter than the tail of a 747. We redid all three of our runways, which was a large task to do. Most airports do not do all three of their runways at the same time. We expanded our customs facility. So this is all state of the art. And then we have started a terminal transformation. And there'll be more of that to come. Yes, our nice floors instead of the tile and clicky clacky. And then we redid our concourse bathrooms. And these are our sky caps. We put them in a coastal casual uniform, so you can feel more like you're at the beach. And with Porter Airlines was flying here, we would greet each flight with fresh orange juice and some music. Trying to remember what all the words are going on. We've expanded our restaurant and concession facilities with Met's culinary management. We now have a Dunkin' on the concourse, which everyone was very excited about when it first opened.
Patrons are also getting an overwhelming applause, providing a clean and welcoming experience. MLB's new skycap uniforms reflect the airport's famous coastal casual feel. We greet our passengers Florida style, providing any assistance needed, from trained wheelchair assistance to lots of luggage and anything in between. MLB's team of international ambassadors are all trained to Disney standards, greeting every passenger with fresh Florida orange juice, island music, and free sand pails and shovels for the kids. Flying is another great pleasure for your passengers, thanks to our incredible location. In fact, MLB was once again voted the #1 most beautiful airport approach in the USA. Before, passengers had only one choice for a meal. Now they have three, thanks to Met's culinary management. Options now include the internationally popular Dunkin' and a full from scratch menu. And with the addition of Dollar and Thrifty, MLB is now home to all major rental car companies. The Melbourne Airport Authority ensures that this airport makes and keeps its promises daily. MLB is a popular landlord with tenants such as international tech giants Embraer Executive Jets, Northrop Grumman, and L3Harris Technologies. Embraer has quadrupled in size, moving its international phenom, legacy, and now freighter assembly operations to MLB. Northrop Grumman has brought 2,000 new jobs to MLB to support the B-21 Raider program. And L3Harris Technologies' recent merger became the largest in defense history, also announcing to keep its headquarters right here at MLB. STS Aviation Group serves an international fleet of narrow and wide-body aircraft in MLB's 83,000 square foot Part 145 MRO hangar. It's important to note that with colossal tenants like these, MLB does not rely on airline revenue. Here at Orlando Naughton International Airport, our promise is made, our promise is kept. Welcome to Orlando Naughton with Melbourne International Airport. So,
Okay. I'll just send out the link to the video later. I'm sorry. That was just not fun. I apologize. So looking at some of our big projects, I talked about Project Jaguar, which was 2008, and that was Embraer coming to the airport. Embraer joined MLB's tenant base. They were doing the assembly of the Embraer Phenom 100, 300, and that is an aircraft that is exclusively manufactured at MLB. It's not manufactured at any other Embraer facilities, including their facilities in Brazil. It created hundreds of jobs, and they invested millions of dollars in the facilities at MLB. Project Summit was the expansion of Embraer to include the legacy aircraft. It was $55 million expansion and added additional jobs at MLB. And actually, the airport itself was responsible for the construction of all the facilities, which again included another paint booth, another delivery center, and expanding the assembly facilities. In 2014, we were awarded Project Magellan, which was the expansion of Northrop Grumman that brought in over 2,000 new high-paying jobs at MLB. They actually surpassed what they had guaranteed to the state that they were going to bring into the area. That they had also had promised an average annual salary of $100,000, but I get the report from the DEO, and actually the average is over $111,000 a year. They made $500 million in capital investment, and as you are probably aware, they're doing the engineering and design of the next generation B-21 Raider long-range strike bomber. And we will be seeing that aircraft here at some point for some testing. Another big thing that happened recently was TUI announced coming to MLB in 2022. It's the UK's #1 holiday provider. They have a 7-year agreement naming MLB its exclusive airport in Central Florida. It right now is operating out of Orlando Sanford Airport. And we anticipate more than 150,000 annual international visitors in the first year. Of course, now this is all subject to change with what we're dealing with right now. We are still going ahead. We have a terminal expansion project and renovation project that we are in the works for to help facilitate this new service. And it's actually happening at a good time because now we can also pivot and make any kind of renovations to make future-proof another situation like this. And then our big news on Friday, AERION Supersonic selected MLB for its worldwide headquarters and integrated campus for research, design, build, and maintenance of the company's supersonic aircraft. AERION Park will house the manufacturing of the AS-2 supersonic business jet, which is going to be the fastest supersonic jet. And what's really cool is it's going to be fueled by biofuels. It has the potential to create 675 new jobs, and there are plans to invest over $300 million. So how can you join the momentum at MLB? Well, we have all of our social media platforms. This is actually part of my department since we have marketing has been folded into business development. And I think I still have a couple poll questions. So now that we're kind of near the end, can we launch the number 4 poll question? See if you are maybe paying attention. I actually had to think about this one when Rob came up with the poll questions. So the answer is Collins. And then if we could launch the last poll question. Yeah, Collins Aerospace. See, y'all were tricky. No, they were here before Northrop Grumman. And then who is our largest tenant? Ah, yes, you were listening. Awesome. Okay, so that is the last of my slides. I'm happy to take any and all questions, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability.
Melissa, this is Kristen. I did have a question.
Okay.
Now it's in the chat way back where. Okay. Is the business model that you have at MLB, where so much of your revenue is tenant based, is that common in your industry? Or I know you said earlier, if you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if you know, because I'm fascinated by that so much of your, and I don't know if you said the percentage of your revenue.
85%.
So if you could just speak to that perhaps a second, and then there's
Sure.
another one I'll find in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we're a very unusual airport. There are a lot of airports right now that are dealing with issues that we don't have to deal with right now because we have such a strong tenant base. Our passenger traffic has been severely impacted. We're under 50% where we normally are. We're down to just a handful of flights a day, usually 3 or 4 depending. So we are lucky in that regard that our tenants are the ones that prop up our budget. We're still having to make some cuts, but we're not having to make the cuts that are really difficult to make, such as regarding employment.
All right, Ross had a question. I don't know if is it TUI or
TUI.
TUI?
Yes.
Thank you. Wants to know if TUI Airlines is still coming.
Yes, they are. We haven't heard otherwise. We're still moving ahead with our planning. Yes.
Who else has questions? You can put them in the chat room is probably the easiest way, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask Melissa directly, you have that option too.
Sure.
While you're thinking, I'll share a question that I asked Melissa earlier when we were on before y'all joined us, about what is the time. You know, you made the announcement for the new company on Friday.
Right.
And I had asked Melissa how, you know, what the lead time on that was. And I think you said 16 months.
Yes, 16 months. We were first contacted by the site selector on, of all days, Christmas Day 2018. And we've been working on this project ever since.
Wow.
So, and it's not unusual. Development deals can take that long. I know some people are surprised. If we get a deal done in under a year, that's amazing. I'm trying to think that the first Embraer one went pretty quickly, but I don't even know if we made that year timeline, but yeah, not unusual.
Hey, Melissa.
Yes, Sean.
A couple things is I think that would be interesting is and if we, I don't know if we can talk about this, but the airport's debt load, as well as how long does it take to get an airline into the airport? Because everybody always asks, how come we don't have a JetBlue? How come we don't have Southwest? How long does it take to get an airline in? I think they would be interested to know that.
Okay, thanks. Those are great questions. First of all, our airport is unusual in another way. We do not carry any debt. We're able to cover all of our expenses, including all of our capital projects, without taking on any debt. Greg Donovan is extremely great at chasing down grant money. I mean, that's his wheelhouse. That's what he does best. So all of that helps us to stay debt free. As for how long it takes to recruit an airline, if you could do that in 16 months, that would be totally amazing. It takes years and years of constantly talking to an airline, sending them information, meeting with them.
I know everyone, you'll see comments on like the Florida Today and stuff like, oh, I wish you would get, so-and-so airline to like Albany, or, you should really try to get Southwest. Well, we're trying to do all of that. There is not an airline out there that we have not talked to. That's the other thing that Greg's really good at. He's out there meeting with the airlines. If he's not meeting with them physically, he's having phone conversations, he's going to conferences. It's much easier, I would swear, it's much easier to land a new business development deal, a large company, than it is to get an airline to move into a new market, especially because they're so very comfortable at Orlando. And because it's so expensive to operate into Orlando, all those airlines are paying for the new terminal development. And so in order for them to make it cost effective, they need to put in as many flights as they can to Orlando. So that's another challenge for us. But we are the cheapest airport to fly into in the state of Florida. We get a lot of questions, we have a lot of interest, but it's just getting them over that hump to realize that they would be better served coming to MLB than to Orlando. On the other hand, we never want to be in Orlando. We like being our small hometown airport where you get the customer service that you're accustomed to, where you can go through a TSA line in a matter of minutes and not, have to look at that big clock and see, oh, there's an hour wait or whatever to get through the TSA. So it's a balancing act. It's all a balancing act, but that is something we work on constantly. That is Greg's passion, and he's the one that really heads that all up. And we're out there talking to every airline you can imagine.
Let me go back to Ross. Has another question still related to TUI. Now I've got that part down. He wants to know if locals, in quotes, so I guess, guys like us will be able to book flights on TUI and go visit Europe.
To begin with, probably not. TUI sells vacation packages, so every one of their seats are usually accounted for coming and going, because they'll come over with a full plane, and then the passengers stay for a week or two, and then they go back on a full plane. However, TUI also has another airline that operates into Sanford, in which locals can book seats into to go to Europe, and we're hoping that they're going to bring that service over here as well. So to begin with, probably not, but there'll probably be a chance for that in the future.
So keep that in mind, Ross, and other questions that you have. We've got a couple minutes left. Okay, Melissa, can you see the chat?
Yeah, I can see. They want to know why we have MLB as our acronym.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's what the FAA designated our acronym to be. And let me tell you, it did present an interesting challenge at one point when we were trying to trademark our logo. Major League Baseball had a big problem with that. So we had to enter into an agreement with them. So we can only use our logo in certain circumstances. So, anything that makes it look like baseball-y related, we can't do. So that's an interesting question. So thank you.
I never would have thought of that, Ben. So thank you for bringing that up. I assumed it was one of those airport or FAA designations, like where something, at least there's an M for Melbourne.
Yes.
There's some airports, trying to think of one.
Like Orlando, MCO, because it's for McCoy.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Has nothing that would relate it, at least in my mind, to Orlando. But
any other questions?
this is your opportunity to ask somebody at the airport anything you always wanted to know, assuming that Melissa is allowed to answer. let me ask you this, Melissa, because I don't think people think about working at the airport. You know, you think like, well, there's somebody like in Mr. Donovan's job, and maybe there's like pilots. But, you know, what are some of the other employment, or what's the employment, who's employed by the airport, and how large is that employment group?
Okay, our employment group currently is around 50 employees. We're responsible for all the operations and maintenance of the airport. So we have people that work just on the airfield cutting grass. I mean, it's a constant thing having to cut grass at an airport because you can't have birds being attracted. So that's something that people don't think about. We have, you know, runway inspections that we have to do so often every day. We also have a police department, as you should be well aware of, since one of your is in the police department. Yes, the one that's waving right now. And not every airport does that either. A lot of airports will contract with the local municipality or county for those police services. We have what we call our international ambassadors. They greet all of our passengers that come in on international flights. They also help us out with special events. They're temporary employees, but they're a very important and necessary part of our company, and it's actually one of the reasons why TUI picked us. They like that we give that little special extra touch. As for, like, you know, we don't employ any pilots. A lot of times people contact us thinking we're the airline. No, if you want to work for an airline, you need to go contact the airline. Trying to think of what other, well, we have a mobile home community. So we have a park manager and a maintenance worker over there. She is doing God's work because it's dealing with those cranky older senior citizens is a lot of times a thankless job, and Tropical Haven actually falls under my responsibility. So I am so very thankful for her because she's the buffer between me and the residents. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, every airport's different. There's different jobs at different airports.
All right, and we've had 2 additional questions pop into the chat room, Melissa.
Sure.
One addressing the capacity for growth, given, you know, what you've got for land, and then the issue with the name
with the Orlando
conversation with MCO.
Okay, first, our capacity for current growth. Well, as you can see, we are running out of land. That's, you know, concerning. There is a tract of property between, on the north side of the airport, between Wickham Road and our current large parcel that AERION is going to be locating into. We are in constant talks with the family that owns that property. It's called the Utopian property. We've been told no for a long time, and now we've gotten to a maybe. So there is a chance we'll be able to acquire some more land, and it will be aviation land, which is what's really important for an airport to have control over. We would be able to put our taxiway system into that new property. But yeah, we're running out of property, especially aviation property. We still have plenty of non-aeronautical property, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to keep my job, so I need more property. And with regard to the issue with Orlando, Melbourne International Airport and Orlando International Airport, no, that is still ongoing. I can't really talk about ongoing legal actions, but yeah, still hanging out there. I think they've dragged Orlando Sanford into it now as well, so.
Okay. Well, I've got 4:54, so okay, there's one more question.
One more. What are the most important projects for the airport right now? Well, our most important project is always retaining our tenant base. One of my jobs is to keep in constant contact with all our tenants. If there's anything that we could do for them, if there anything that they need? It's easier to retain an existing tenant and help them expand rather than going out and trying to recruit a new company. So that is the most important thing, at least to me, is taking care of my current tenants. We do have another project that's hanging out there that we hope to hear about sometime, maybe this summer. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, we have another project in the works that we're competing for.
Okay, well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, a very quick question, and then I just want to thank Melissa and be able to wrap it up and give you guys a reminder about tomorrow's content session.
So the
Melissa,
impact,
do you see the noise question?
yeah, we recently conducted a noise study, and it has little impact around the community. We do not have to take any mitigation efforts right now. No impact.
Okay, super. Well, Melissa, I want to say thank you to you and your team. Please express our gratitude to Mr. Donovan, and I know Rob worked with you, but you did the lion's share of putting this presentation together and, of course, delivering it, and we are grateful. Thank you. I know we missed being at the airport physically, but I did hear your offer of perhaps later this summer. And you know, maybe the airport will be a place that we can have an in-person class of 2020 event.
I mean, they need the runway picture. It's a tradition now.
Yeah, it is. That is one thing. The airport has always taken us out on a bus out and cleared the runway. The tower holds flights, and is probably, it's not their favorite 20 minutes, but we get out to the airport runway and have a photograph made, you know, and maybe we can share that with you guys later, just from a previous year, because that's always been a special treat. And I'm sorry, Melissa, that we're missing that for right now this year. We'll put that onto the must be made up list. Sean, does that fall in your department too, to police that while it happens?
Oh, Melissa will make sure it falls directly in my lap, I'm sure, to handle. But no, we
could be the one to go talk to the tower.
Yeah, no, we will make whatever we gotta make happen. Greg is very supportive of Lead Brevard, so we don't have any issues there. It works out great. We'll do anything.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, Greg is a graduate, I think, of Leadership Pensacola. And so he knows this whole this community-based leadership model, and has always been a big fan and supporter. And if you pass along to him, Sean and Melissa, how much we appreciate that, and him providing time for you to make this presentation with our group today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. We will send out that video. I can also send you the presentation itself.
Yeah, if you would kindly send the presentation, the slides, and we can make that part of what we've got as the virtual session recording on our website, and the link to the video would also be, that would be appreciated.
Sure thing. I'll get that right over to you.
Okay, super. Melissa, again, thank you. And I know everybody else, you know, who's on the call is appreciative of your work. I want to remind you, class members, that there is a webinar tomorrow that Johnette Gindling, who is part of your cohort, is the moderator, and the guests are Linda Weatherman, Commissioner Rita Pritchett, Tim Walters, who is Leadership Brevard 2015 with the newspaper, Jennifer Sugarman with the Cocoa Beach Chamber, Rob Raines at United Way, who's also a 1998 graduate, and Teresa Grimison, who's with the Community Foundation. Registration is required for that webinar tomorrow, so if you're interested, I know that you got the email from Kristen, probably again a reminder today, so go ahead and sign up, and perhaps we will see you there. And then you will get an email about leadership action projects and a separate email about graduation, all going to happen later this week. So Melissa, thank you again. Class participants, thank you for signing on. And stay well, be safe. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.